Welcome back. In this video we're going to take a look at creating a nice rust texture with a lot of variation in it. And this is one of my favorite textures because really it's meant to be used with all sorts of other textures that you create. But we have to have it before we can use it elsewhere, so let's get started. I have a 1024 by 1024 document, and I've selected a dark brown color. And I'm going to flip that. I'm going to change my white, but I'm going to sample my dark brown. And then just kind of go kitty corner and choose a lighter brown. Going to make sure that I have my gradient tool selected. And I'm going to switch over to my circular gradient. And then I'm just going to pull out from the center towards a corner about a little better than half the way. And we get this nice gradient. Alright, that's awesome. I want to keep this for the end because it's going to give us a lot of the variation in color for our rust texture to choose from down the line. So the first thing I'm going to do, because I need to make adjustments to it, is duplicate that layer by hitting Ctrl-J. Alright, now I have a duplicated layer and we can get on with business. I'm going to swap my color palette again, so that I got my dark brown, and I'm going to choose my lighter brown and push that up to white. Now I'm going to go in to Filters, Render, and I want Difference Clouds. And that looks like a mess. I'm going to hit Ctrl-F to run it again. Messier. I'm going to hit it 2 more times. Maybe even 2 more. I kind of like that. Gotta get it to taste. We want a good separation of colors, and we want them all over the place. So that should work out nicely. Alright, next we're going to go back to our filters again. This time we're going to pull up our gallery. And the first thing we want is Stylize Glowing Edges. And we want to set this pretty much the way I've got it right now, because clearly I play around with these textures ahead of time. So we want an edge width of 2, an edge brightness of 13, and a smoothness of 1, which gives us all these nice little scribbly colored lines. And we'll go ahead and hit OK. And there we go. Looks just like rust. Alright, we got a little bit more to do. Alright, we're going to duplicate this layer also. Ctrl-J. And now we're going to use another stylize setting. We won't have to go to the gallery for this one. We'll just go down to Stylize. We're going to choose Find Edges. This just gets messier as we go, but trust the process, as I like to say. Alright, now we're going to hit Ctrl-U, which will bring up our hue and saturation. We're going to put in some very specific numbers. We're going to do 27, 53, and -9. Except I forgot to check colorize, so we're probably going to have to put those in again. 27, 53, -9. Hit enter to accept that, and there we go. Alright, we're going to hide this layer for the moment. I'm going to go down to our previous layer, and we're going to hit Ctrl-F, which will apply the same filter we applied up here. It basically applies whatever the last filter was that you used. Then we're going to hit Ctrl-U. And once again, this time I'm going to remember to check colorize. And we're going to put in, again, some very specific numbers. I'm going to start with 292 and tab down and do 66. And we can leave this at 0, but we'll get a very purpley kind of color. And that's good to go. Now we're going to change the layer mode over to overlay. And we're going to come on, select. There we go. And we're going to knock our opacity down to about 50%. We're getting closer. All right. Now we're going to reactivate our top layer. Select that. We're also going to make this overlay. So now we have two overlay layers over our basic brown. And you can see what I was talking about getting some nice changes to color by using this base layer with a gradient. Alright, now that we have this layer, we're going to copy this again. Control J. And with that overlay, that's really starting to brighten up. Alright, now we have some nice rust colors going. But we want to take some of this out and begin to blend these a little more unevenly than just the overlay does. So we're going to go up to Select, choose Color Range, and we want our fuzziness at about 40. And we want to be on Selection, and we want our little eyedropper here, not our plus or minus. Now we're just going to come in and find somewhere around a median color and select that and see what we get. And we can look at our preview window, and I really want something that's a little more all over. Maybe something like that. That's too much. And we just have to futz around till we find what we're really after. Not overly happy with any of this. I kind of like that, but I don't like that ring. Keep trying to grab something like that. Oh, I guess that's not too bad. We'll see what happens with that. We're going to press OK. Now we have this selection going. And I really don't know how much I'm going to like that, but we will see. Alright. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is delete this by hitting our delete key, which will remove all those selections. And I'll hit Control D to deselect that. And I'll watch my computer slow way down. Now, if you're using CC and you get this weird kind of edge, I don't know what's up with that lately. But if we Control plus, back out, it's not really an edge, so don't let that freak you out. Alright, we're starting to get more of a rusty look. Now let's apply a layer style to this. So I'm going to double click on it twice. Bring up my layer styles. And the first one I'm going to choose is Inner Shadow. And the first thing that I want to do is set this to normal, not screen. And I'm going to make the opacity about 75. Noise at 0. Oops. Come on. No wonder that isn't looking right. There we go. Inner Shadow. Alright, normal. I have a nice orange, rusty color selected. 75. Move our angle off around 120, something like that, so we're getting a little bit of angle to it. Yeah, 120. We're going to bring everything else down to 0, including our noise down here if you have anything on, and the default contour is fine. And then we're just going to leave that be. All that's doing is adding some color information in around here. Then we're going to hop up to Bevel and Emboss. And we're going to make sure we're on Inner Bevel and Smooth. Try our depth at basically nothing. Direction up. All of these at 0. 120 is fine. 30 is fine. We definitely want use global light. And our highlight mode of screen and multiply is fine. I do think I do need some depth on there. Not in love with it. Let's try it at full. Alright, we'll see how that looks. Not too bad. We're starting to get a pretty good rust going. Alright, we've only got a couple things left to do. We're going to take this layer and we're going to change it over from overlay to hue. And that's probably a little bit more realistic of a rust. And it wouldn't be a bad idea to at least save one copy right here the way it is. We can also go in to image adjustments. And we can play with our levels a little bit. I'm going to bring up the dark. Actually, that's not going to do all that much on here. I'm going to play with it on the first layer. Image adjustments, levels. Push my dark a little bit. Bring my lights back out. And then if I move my center, I'm going to start bringing in reds. And it really doesn't matter where you end up with these. In fact, you can do this multiple times and save out several different ones. This one gets a very relatively fresh rust looking. So I'll click OK. And there we go. We have a nice rust color. And now, depending on what we're working on, if we're creating some kind of rusty metal texture, we can come in and I'm going to hit Shift Control Alt E. And I should have moved it up to the top here. Basically, that just takes a snapshot of all your layers. So now, if I'm on this layer, if there was something I wanted to put rust on, I could bring this whole texture in and just get rid of part of it. Or I could just lasso an area I want and select that and copy it and move it in. But you get a nice wide range of rusty color to work with. And if you do play with your levels a few times, you're going to end up with really just about, there's hardly going to be a rust you can come up with that you don't have something to cover it. But alright, there we go. One of my favorite textures, rust. Now we'll move on to some other things, and I'll see you in the next video.